Hi everyone, my name is Ellie.
And I'm Danny.
And today we're talking about soulmates. I'm sure you all have your own definition and understanding of what a soulmate is. And I used to think that a soulmate was someone that came to just sweep me off my feet and just frolic into the sunset. And we live happily ever after. And you're the missing piece to my puzzle. And now that I've started the healing journey, I realize that is not anything what an actual soulmate really is.
Yeah, we've been fed this lie, especially from Disney.
Yeah.
You know, all these movies when you're growing up, like, oh, you need your Prince Charming and then you'll live happily ever after.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the truth of the matter is when you actually find your soulmate, the real work starts to begin.
Yeah, and it is not anything that you think it's going to be. I think for me, I've always been in these relationships that did it help me grow? I don't think so at all, but maybe at the time it did. But I think it was when I met you where my world flipped inside out, upside down, to the left, to the right, everything. And I started to understand oh, this man is here to help me evolve and to help me grow. And it's been quite the ride.
Yeah, we think that a soulmate is coming to fix all of our problems. But what a soulmate in actuality is they're here to allow you to enter a new phase of your life, a new level of your own growth, a new level of your own healing, so you can achieve a higher level of consciousness.
So I think for me, I've always had a lot of wounding when it came to relationships. Like when I would meet a dude, I would just just claw, cling, please never leave me, please never go away. And I used to think that that was love. And I used to think that's how you act and you are in a relationship. And so because of all these relationships that I've been in, they never worked out. I was always talking about years, even to my spiritual healing journey. I was like, I can't wait for my king, because I had this idea that when my king came, everything would be okay. When my king came, my life would just be just a higher level of living, and I would experience love on a whole new level. And it's not that I don't experience love on a whole new level, because even the definition of love is completely being redefined for me. But this relationship has shown me that everything that I've been in before has really just been there to show me all of my wounds, because so much of my wounds came out in those past relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I used to show up. Oh, it's shocking when I think back on the way that I would just jump into things and just wear my heart on my sleeve, completely carelessly. I would meet someone and just want to go all the way in, dive way too deep. It was super unhealthy. And it wasn't an organic opening from me and the woman. It was always just trying to get to a place where love could exist, because deep down I didn't have that love from within.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really until last year when I started doing the deep inner work on myself that I was able to raise my vibration enough up to attract a partner that is actually going to help me see what true love is. Because my idea of love up until this last year was always being loved. I thought love was that feeling of being made special and being adored. And I've come to realize that no, that's coming from this wounded place of my ego. And so I was chasing women my whole life from this lower level of consciousness, looking for a woman that's going to make me feel special.
Yeah.
And then when we got together, it might have played out for a little bit, but it didn't last. That wasn't the core of our relationship, because we were here to shine the light on those wounded parts of us, those darker parts of us.
And I also think that in every relationship, and I'll refer to my last one that I was in for 4 years, I would blame him for everything. It was literally waking up and, oh, what can I blame him for today? How is he making me unhappy today? How can I shit on him today? And in reality, what was coming up for me was all of my shit. But because I was so unconscious to it, all I ever did was try to make him change so that I can be happy. And in our container, that is the opposite of what we do. There is no you do this to make me feel better. It's hold on, let me go take some time to really understand what's coming up for me, and let me work through it so that I can show up in this space with actual true love, with spaciousness, with presence. And that really requires inner work individually before you go into the container of the two of you.
Yeah, and for me, I used to show up constantly trying to change myself and make my partner happy.
Right.
And this idea that if my partner was happy, then they would be able to love me and they wouldn't leave me. So there was all these programs that I created, these behavioral programs where I was just constantly trying to do anything to make my partner happy. And ultimately that was really unhealthy and would lead to very toxic a toxic relationship, because the truth is we can only make ourselves happy, and as a partner you can try and support them, but by constantly trying to make my partner happy, I'm taking away that power. I'm taking away the opportunity for her to learn what she needs in life.
Yeah.
And
also taking away from yourself.
Yeah, I was just in this like give.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. And yeah, it was so unhealthy. And finally in this container, it's about recognizing when I'm doing that, coming back to myself, and then providing enough space for myself and my partner to go through whatever it is that's coming up. And that's true power, and that leads to true love. So as Ellie already mentioned, both of us understanding of what love actually is constantly evolving. We're still not at a place where we think we fully understand it, because as we've been working deeper and deeper into healing all of our wounds, we're both understanding that what we used to think love was is not actually correct. And yeah, to you, what is love?
I mean, it's really sad because I have no idea what actual love really is, and I can only see from like what I've been showcased by my parents. But I really thought that like love was just like hanging out together. It's so sad. But like I really thought that was love. Like, oh, he wants to hang out with me, which must mean that he cares about me, which must mean that he loves me. Like when I tell you the bar was so low for me before, it was like on the floor. Like that was it. You're hanging out with me, we're best friends, and like we just do things together. And I truly thought that was love, that because the idea that you weren't leaving me must mean that you love me.
And where did that stem from? And if you don't know, that's okay.
I feel like our parents' generation, I'm sure you guys can relate to this, like it wasn't like true love a lot of times. I think the older generation like really just like found someone that they like got along with. They're like, oh, let's just do this. And then they go on this whole journey and have kids and all this stuff. And it's like, and so what was modeled to me was like very much like, yeah, they were partners, but it wasn't this like deep connection, this true love. And then I realized like, well, how can they truly love each other when they individually don't even really love themselves or even understand and know what that is?
Because that's always what it comes down to. You know, we can only, I'm sure you've heard this before, you can only love somebody as much as you're loving yourself.
Right.
And so when we're severely cut off from our own source of love, our own connection to ourself, then that doesn't allow us to connect to other people on a deep level as well. So.
Yeah. And people out there might, they're like, what do you mean I do love my partner? I do. It doesn't mean that you don't care for them, right? But what is being filtered through your wounding that you're not even aware of? Because that was what I was doing, was like sometimes like even with my ex-boyfriend, like I was loving him because I wanted to be loved. You know, like I was trying to connect to him because I was seeking so much connection and I didn't know how to do it within myself.
And when we seek that connection from a place of ego or woundedness or some level of lack or pain, that isn't what love is. That isn't true connection. That isn't unconditional love. It's I'm only doing this because I need you. And this is where, you know, what I learned from my parents was like, I need you, I need a woman to love me so that I can feel love too. And so I was always just going around like trying to get them to open so that I could feel that openness and love too, which is really sad.
Yeah.
You know, I really recognize now my whole life, I've been chasing this idea that I just need someone to make me feel special. I need a woman in my life to feel love. And while having a relationship is one way that you can experience love, but it can only be experienced once you felt it within yourself. And that true connection to self is what allows for that opening in the container of your relationship.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean like when you're watching this, I have to be fully healed to find that or fully love myself. It's like, no, if you're divinely meant to go on a journey with somebody, like it will happen. And he and I are on the healing journey individually. And then we're also doing it together, you know, helping each other out for sure. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, and there's layers and levels to this. So it's not, our mind really wants to go black and white and be like, oh, this is love and this isn't. And yeah, you can go down that route, and basically the absence of love is abuse, and if anything is coming from like a harmful, abusive place, that isn't love. But there is also like levels to how much we can love another, because there's levels to how deeply connected we are to ourselves. So it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're not fully healed that you don't know how to love, or you've never experienced an aspect of love. It's just that we as individuals and as partners are trying to find what true unconditional love is.
So me and Danny just kind of want to, you know, summarize our 7-month relationship. 7 months, babe. That's what I'm saying.
7 months.
7 months has been a journey.
3 months in a van. Now we live together. So
yes.
It's been.
Yeah. So me and Danny were long distance in the beginning. He was living in Colorado. I was living in New York. So the first like few weeks was just basically on the phone all the time and talking. And then we finally decided.
Months.
It was months?
Yeah.
Months. Okay. Months. And then we decided to finally meet up. So I flew to Colorado, and I thought that when I got there, I'd be like, oh my God, this is it. We're so on. Like, I can't wait to meet him. And then as soon as the moment that we physically met, my heart dropped, and I was like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be.
And how did that feel?
Shit. It was rough.
So what did you think it was gonna be?
I literally thought that like when we met, it was gonna be like da da da, and like we were just gonna collide beautifully, and it was like gonna be like this, like a storybook like romance. And as soon as we met, I could feel that he was not expectation wise where I was at.
Right, yeah. I wasn't in this place of like, energetically, I wasn't open. I was like not ready to like, let's get married and let's go have lots of the kids. And I think what I could feel from you was that all of this like pressure and expectation on like how I needed to show up and how I needed to be ready to go march into the sunset, hand in hand, arm in arm. And it freaked me out.
Yeah, it freaked you out.
Yeah.
So our first meeting together, I left that trip knowing that it was over. Like we weren't going to go anywhere. And so we ended up taking just like, we were like, I need time on my own. I need space. And so he took around like a little bit over a month to go do that. And I took a lot of time to really understand what was going on with me, because when we stopped talking, I felt shattered. It was so interesting. Like, it's not like I've known this guy for 10 years and, all of a sudden he left me. Like, I knew this guy for a couple of months and I was shattered. And that was the first beautiful gift that you really gave to me, was what was really going on within me and like what was in my fields and what were my wounds. Because when we separated, it was like earth shattering for me. And so it was a huge healing for me. Yeah.
And like, even in your words there, like separated, right?
I know. Yeah.
And all I said to you was like, I can't do this right now.
Yeah.
I need some space and some time away. And
my wounding heard something else.
And it wasn't like we were even together yet.
You're right.
So we were just talking, but in your head, I think you'd painted this picture of like, well, we're gonna have this many kids.
Yep.
Here's our house.
Yep.
And so for you, it was like a separation. Whereas for me, it was like space. I just needed space.
Yeah.
And some time to think and some time to process. Like, we had been talking every day for like months, and then we finally met up, and then it wasn't perfect. And I think it's so easy for our minds to paint this picture of what things should and shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But in reality, what is what is, right?
Yeah, and my wounding was like, I just wanted to be with somebody. I just like didn't want to be alone. And I was like, oh, this is my guy. And so all my chips were in and your chips weren't. And it was a huge chapter for me to experience that.
Yeah, I was finally at this place where I was, I'd been doing this deep inner work now on my own, and I was becoming more secure in myself. And I was finally at this place where I wasn't ready to jump all the way in, which is what I've been doing with pretty much every single woman that I'd met prior to Ellie. So I was, as I say, like finally at this place of not needing to do that. And I feel like that was the saving grace, because the old version of me would have just jumped in and it would have probably turned out really toxic and very unhealthy. And all of my deep wounds would have came out. And yes, there was a lot of wounds playing of like fear of opening up and fear of going in, but I definitely showed up differently to you than I had done in everyone else in the past.
Yeah.
And I can only accredit that to doing enough self-work before you.
Yeah. So fast forward, we start talking again.
Yeah. And Ellie said a month. Realistically,
Babe, it was a month.
It was like 2 weeks that we didn't talk.
It was 4 weeks.
It wasn't 4 weeks.
Okay.
It wasn't 4 weeks.
We'll check the data after, okay?
Yeah.
And so then we ended up talking again, and literally 2 months later, we were officially together.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so why we want to bring this up is that sometimes meeting your soulmate isn't exactly what you think it's going to be. It's not this movie that everyone paints it out to be on Hollywood and on, TV. Sometimes it can be challenging, and it's not smooth. It's a bumpy road, and when I look back, that's a good sign, because if you're meeting a partner and everything just fits together perfectly, there's not going to be any growth. And a real soulmate is there to bring you to the next level.
Yep.
And with that comes challenge, adversity. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
But in that pressure, that's where you're going to grow.
Oh, beautifully said.
Thanks.
We're going to be sharing a lot of these videos. We really hope it helps all of you. We're just here to help others like really find themselves, because what you can create in this life, I don't even know yet. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just starting to unravel and see all of the diamonds that you create when pressure is added.
Yeah.
If you want to work with me or Danny is also a certified relationship coach. All the info to set up a free consultation with either of us is in the description box below. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe, share, comment, like, smash that
like button, and we'll see you on the next video.
Bye.